Happy Sunday, everybody. Steve Ritter back again with something I read in a devotion today, and I wanted to just kind of share this. As most pilots, Air Force pilots, which I did that was my career. I flew C-17s. They say that most pilots are A-type personalities, go-getters, and they don't like things, moving things out of the way, making things happen, not comfortable with standing still, gotta shake things, move things, step in, lead, move. And that's probably true. And Arlene could probably tell you that very well. Not content a lot of times with the way things are. Always want to make things better and improve things. Sometimes that's a benefit, sometimes that's a hazard, but ambitious, probably, yes. And I was reading a devotion in this Martin Luther book that I got that was Bucky's that I was reading through, and I came across 1 Corinthians 7:24, and here Paul was talking with people that the gist of it. Well, I'll just read the verse. So, brothers and sisters, each person as responsible to God should remain in the situation they were in when God called them. And specifically, he was talking to people who had been slaves or who were slaves who were saved. And at that point in time, he was telling them, hey, this is the situation you're in. God's called you, continue. And obviously, that times have changed as far as slavery goes, certainly. But, to take a big step back from that and to put that into context and apply it in our lives now. And I got to thinking about that going, well, I remember when I was a teenager and, going to church and I was really involved with the youth group, and they would have people come by and church camp and things like that. And there was always it always seems like there was a push or the message, kind of the implication, kind of, there was just a lot of talk about that, about being called to the service, called to ministry. And I'm certain that it probably was mostly in my own mind thinking about that, like to serve God is to go into the ministry. And the problem was I just didn't feel that in my heart. I didn't feel like really that's certainly what I didn't want to do it. But and there's just this quandary of, well, I don't, am I called, but I don't really want to do it, and it's just this circular spiral down, And I was thinking about that a lot, and the point in Martin Luther's point, and he says this too, is in his devotion he was talking about it, is, we all have jobs, we all have roles, and what we're called to do, we should do. And if you're a farmer and God's called you to be a farmer, be content with that, be happy with that. If you're called to be a businessman, be a businessman. And we're to do all things as unto the Lord, like for the Lord. Like, God's called me to do this, I'm going to do the best job I can and do this. And I think about that a lot. I'm like, well, that's a calling too. God's called us to do that too, to serve Him and however we serve. And looking at 1 Corinthians 12, verses 12 through 19. So just as a body, though one, has many parts, but all its many parts form one body. So it is with Christ, for we were all baptized by one Spirit so as to form one body, whether Jews or Gentiles, slave or free, and we're all given the one Spirit to drink. Even so, the body is not made up of one part, but of many. Now, if the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason stop being part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason stop being part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But in fact, God has placed the parts in the body, every one of them, just as He wanted them to be. If they were all one part, where would the body be? So it is, there are many parts, but one body. So if every Christian was in the ministry, I mean, think about it. I mean, who would sit out in the pews and listen? Everybody be talking and preaching to each other, and be like a family reunion. Everybody talking at the same time, I guess. But I think about that a lot, and it gives me peace when I think about that. When I think about what I believe God's called me to do, and I've done that in my life to the best of my ability. And that's honoring the Lord too, and that's serving the Lord, and always, and be open. Sometimes He has like these things. I mean, these devotions. I mean, sometimes God steers us over this way. Sometimes He steers us over this way. Now I want you to work on this a little bit more. I want you to work on this a little bit more. Always be open to that and be willing to serve. And I'll close. I always loved this story. I had a pastor when we were stationed in Altus, John Johnson, dear man, and I loved. He just man of God that just made such a huge impact in my life personally. But we were talking one day, and I think we were talking about this very thing. Again, I'm an ambitious guy, and I'm moving this way and shaking this and doing that. And I was talking with him something about where my career was going at the time or something. And he told me a story about, he was a young pastor and coming up, and he and his wife, Becky, had just had their son, John, and Josh had their son, Josh, and he had all these plans. I mean, he had zeal for the Lord and all that he was going to do. And he told me one time his son was born, and he was in the hospital room, and he was holding his son, kind of standing over by the window, and he just felt the Spirit of God talk to him and say, what if I told you that this child is the most important thing, raising this child to know and love me is the most important thing in your life? And he's like, well, and he could just, they came on him, and he was like, well, Lord, I've got all these plans. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And he said, God went, the most important thing in your life is to raise this child. Just beautiful. And that's faith too, isn't it? I mean, that's faith going, all these things that we want to do for God, but do what He called you to do. And if it's to be a farmer, if it's to be a shopkeeper, if it's to be a surgeon, if it's to be a whatever, do that as unto the Lord. So, hope this is helpful. I hope you enjoyed this and it ministers to you. It does. It gives me peace. And I hope you have a great Sunday, and we'll see you next time.